Thank you for continuing to hold. Your problems are important to us. All of our podcast hosts are busy right now. Please stay on hold for the next available podcaster. Your expected wait time is...
like a lot.
minutes. Thank you for continuing to hold. Your problems are important to us. All of our podcast hosts are busy right now. All right.
Hey, welcome everyone.
Hey there.
How's it going?
I'm doing great.
Great.
Yeah.
Perfect.
My name's Graham.
My name's Ashkahn. I'm also doing great.
And today's question, which is also just great, is what's with all these baby earplugs? Is everyone a bunch of babies?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yes.
I think that's the answer.
So I guess first of all, let's
maybe
talk
let's
about
unpack this a
what
little
babies
bit.
are. So babies are the kind
When
of
a man
offspring
loves a woman.
of us, of humans.
So I'm assuming, I'm going to make some assumptions here,
One,
that they're talking about specifically Mack's
silicone.
waterproof swimmer's
Earplugs,
earplugs. So for float centers, we don't like the normal kind of foam earplugs that you'd see for, whatever, concerts, construction sites, all those like cheap disposable ones. They just don't hold in your ears very well.
Yeah, and they seem to kind
underwater.
of let a little like air bubbly stuff going through.
It's not what you want.
Yeah, they definitely don't stop water from getting into the ears.
Yeah.
Even if they're properly put in there.
So you really want something a little different for, I think, the kind of ideal float earplug. There's a couple different types. Like some are, some look like tiny little Christmas trees, those kind of rubber Christmas tree ones. I found those to work like decently in float tanks. They have some that are also kind of malleable, like the Mack's earplugs ones are, but they're made of wax.
Yeah, they have like cotton plus wax.
Yeah,
ones,
it's like a cotton,
that you can
like
get.
cotton like surrounds like a thing, and you kind of take that layer off, and there's this like waxy, cottony mixture underneath it. It's the same kind of basic concept as the Mack's silicone ones, which is that they're kind of malleable, and you use them to like form a seal in your ears. And I just saw one on the Float Collective the other day that looked like a tiny little like torpedo or something like that. So there's a couple different types out there, but you're really looking for something that is, ideally meant to be in some kind of watery situation.
Yeah, and I'd say the Mack's silicone earplugs are kind of like a cheap standard for not just float tanks, but any aquatics and aquatic events and things like that. They are kind of a very much de facto for swimmers.
Yeah. So, and they're very popular in float centers. You see them all over.
Yeah, like by a healthy margin, they're probably the most common earplugs to see at float centers.
And what you see a lot at float centers is people using the children's Mack's earplugs.
Yeah, or the baby ones.
Or the baby
because
ones,
they're a bunch of
as this
babies.
person called them. So Mack's makes a smaller version of their earplugs that they make for children, or sometimes they hear float centers that tell people just to take a single adult-size earplug and break it into two to basically accomplish the same goal.
And it's basically, as a one-size-fits-all sort of product. I think that Mack's just made sure that a single pair of regular adult-sized earplugs could fit into humongous ears. That seems to be really the only solution that I can think of, because they're definitely too big for like just if I mold them into mine big ears over there. Go on, what were you going to say?
My ears pretty well like this. I like them. I can't use the children's ones because they're not like
you have
big
giant
enough for
ears,
me. I don't think that's what's going on, right? Hold on. Let's not even get into ear size conversations here, because I think there's something else going on here.
That's good, and I'll let you go first. Bigger ears first, as they say. Yeah.
That is a point, though. They do fit. I need the bigger ones to fit into my ears. But here's my real suspicion. My real suspicion is that more people need the bigger ones than you may think. Here's what I think is happening out there. These Mack's earplugs, these silicone earplugs, do not go in your ears the same way that other earplugs do. When you get those foam earplugs and things like that, or even the little Christmas tree ones, like you're sticking those in your ear canal, and they're making the seal in the ear canal. And so that's people's intuition. And I think if you're trying to use a Mack's earplug to do that same thing and get a seal in your ear canal, then the ones they provide to you are pretty large, and they don't work that well, and it's harder to get them to go and make a good seal in your ear canal when you have kind of so much to work with.
And it's
there.
dangerous. Like you're really not supposed to use them.
Yeah,
that
so
way.
you're not. So that's not how you're supposed to use Mack's earplugs. In fact, if you look at the back of every single package, it specifically has instructions on there that just has a picture of an ear and their earplug going into the ear canal with a giant X over it.
And it's because it's you can you can tear them in half. It's waxy. It's this material that can be sculpted. So unlike a regular earplug, which is all one piece, you can grab the end of it and pull it out. If you stick a bunch of this goop in your ear and you pull on it, it's likely that you're just going to tear off a piece rather than get the rest out, and the remaining amount is going to be stuck down there.
And it's happened
in your ear canal.
I've heard of it happening. Like I've heard of a float center saying that it just got stuck in their customer's ear.
Yeah, which sounds awful.
So this may sound crazy to a lot of float centers out there, but I don't think people should really have the children's earplugs and provide it to people. I don't think it's the proper safe way to use the product. I think what we do is we, in our intro speech, specifically tell people how to use these earplugs.
Yep, turn them into a pancake. Make sure you get a seal around the edge of your ears there. Make sure your ears
really
are dry before you put them in. These are all kind of really important things too.
Yeah, it's like instead of putting them into your ear canal, you're right outside your ear canal, that next layer of your ear, your ear funnel or ear cave.
We're not doctors.
Cave hole, I think. You push it around that area, and you kind of what I do, at least personally. I wear earplugs pretty much every float for some reason. I'm like the only person in Float On that seems to like them. There's a couple other people out there, but
I mean, you have this big ear canal. It's probably uncomfortable if the water gets down in there.
It feels weird. It feels weird in there to me, and so I've gotten and it takes a little bit of training, and you got to figure out how to use it. But now I can do a pretty good job. I get a good seal in my ear. Pretty much every time I float now, I get a solid seal all the way around, and I don't get water going into my ear. And it's just because I'm doing that. I'm kind of flattening it out and pushing it to make that seal around my ear canal rather than pushing things into my ear. And so to be honest, it's a little nerve-wracking to me to see all these kind of children's earplug sizes around in different float centers, because it makes me feel like people are constantly putting them in their ears wrong. Because if you try to use the children's ones to put them in correctly, it's not really enough. Maybe
See, I haven't found, I've also floated and played around with them. So I don't float with earplugs, first of all. So I have way less experience than Ashkahn has. But I am curious about products. And with the Mack's regular earplugs, they take up a bunch of space, even just flattening them, And I can totally get a seal the proper way with the children's earplugs as well. And for me, at least, it feels actually more like a reasonable amount of material that's going in there.
I mean, I can make it work. I just floated a place the other day, and I was I kind of squished it up right and everything like that. But it didn't, it was harder for me. I had to really, more strategically kind of use the materials at my disposal to get it to work for me. It's way easier for me with a little bit more.
Come on, how big are your ears compared to mine?
Listen, this is not. That's not what's going on.
Just line them up over here.
No, it's not that I have big ears. I have a very normal size ear, proportionate to my head. All right,
that doesn't mean you don't have big ears, my friend.
They're fine. They're fine ears.
Besides, you know what they say about people with big ears?
They can hear really
big
well.
Big podcast introductions. That's right.
So I don't know. Just re-examine that. Maybe it's an ear size thing, but
you don't want to be ear responsible.
You do want to be irresponsible.
So test it out. Find your friend who has the biggest ears. Send us a picture,
Here's
preferably to scale, so we can measure against ourselves.
Don't tell people to put these in their ear canals. Yeah. If you find the smaller ones work better for people, and it is in fact true that I have much larger ears than the rest of the human population, then so be it. But just don't have people sticking these in their ear canal.
No, it's terrifying.
It's not how they're supposed to work.
And it's scary.
Yeah. Mr. Mack personally will come down and chastise you if you do.
Yeah, and then the reason, so we don't offer the baby earplugs over at Float On. And pretty much it's because we're not big babies, and we don't want our customers to be either. No, it's because given all of this, ultimately, even if I'm right and the baby earplugs are a little more comfortable for a lot of the population, obviously, they're still not ideal for some portion.
Yeah.
And whereas you can tear bigger earplugs down, you can adjust their size, you can just rip off however much you need to. it's harder to add on to the baby earplug, or you need to go specifically request another pair, or you need to put 2 pairs in
Which is a
one and
weird
then
thing
also
to wanna
explain to people
request.
they can combine them
Yeah.
if they need to make a bigger super earplug. Like, it all just sounds kind of ridiculous. So, at Float On, we just figured adjusting them down in size is the easier decision, and so we offer the bigger size. Plus, we're not a bunch of babies. Get the orange ones too.
Bonus,
We
yeah.
mentioned
So I was
this
gonna
before,
say
but
bonus
pro
earplug
yeah.
tip. Yeah, they come in different colors. One of which is clear. And while clear seems tempting at first, they can be really hard to spot in the float tank. So
Or if they're ground into your floor, or
Yeah.
if someone like sticks them onto the ceiling, or whatever it is,
So bright orange is a really good decision. Super easy to spot.
Yeah, if one falls out of someone's ear inside the tank water, and you're just doing a little visual check of the tank between people, so much easier to see those orange earplugs floating in there. Especially the big ones. Yet another reason
Yeah,
to
even larger.
upgrade the size. Yeah,
I recommend the extra large Max earplugs.
just find them more comfortable. I don't know why.
Okay, that's about enough for your ears out there, I think. If you guys have more questions for us, go to floatanksolutions.com/podcast
Yeah,
and type
we'd love to
in
hear
there.
them.
Okay, all right, we gotta go. This has gone too far.
Bye, everyone. See you next year.